Welcome back to Bitcoin 2022 here at the Miami Beach Convention Center. I'm your host, Nolan Byerly. I host a daily show on Bitcoin Magazine called The Breakup. Please subscribe. We got, canceled last night, and the more subscribers we get, the harder it is going to be to cancel us. Now, I was a lawyer at one time in my life, or played one on TV, and what I just saw from another lawyer got me real perked up, energized, and a little angry. But I don't think it got me as angry as my friend Jimmy here, who I have to give the floor to first, because there was some triggering going on, real triggering.
This is why I hate lawyers. No offense, though, but I hate lawyers for this reason. This was lawyer masturbation, okay?
Whoa.
That's what they were doing. They were just continuously thinking about what regulations exist, thinking nothing about the actual rights of the people, instead saying, well, this regulation exists and this might happen and this. It's not at all about what we have the right to do. It's okay, well, these things exist, therefore we have to comply to them. We have to submit to the state. This guy is an altcoin apologist at the core. He's trying to figure out ways to argue that things are decentralized enough. I'm sick of people like this. That's why I hate lawyers. I hate them.
Well, what I saw was a lot of, let's call it word thinking, as if the words you use define reality, right? And that reality is perhaps beyond the mere words you string in order. A bit like why, law is code, and then they think just like a computer that sets out a protocol, you're bound by it. Well, law is not really the same kind of code. It's just words that go in your brain, and words that I did hear on ESG, words you don't normally hear on this stage at all. ESG, Marty. I heard ESG a lot there, and when we talk about reality, defining, energy bills are one way to find out what is real and what isn't. What did you hear from his speech on the ESG piece?
Well, I mean, it's typical catering to a narrative that is not based in reality. Like you said, it's just words. They use words like sustainable, green energy, renewable energy. We're for social justice. We're going to save the world. But at the end of the day, they're hypocritical. These people don't care about social justice at the end of the day. They don't care about the environment at the end of the day. What ESG is about is control. And that's a lot of what was just discussed there, is how we work within the framework of the legal system in the United States to make sure that they don't ruin Bitcoin for us. And like Jimmy said, I think that's a bad framing. We should be attacking. He mentioned the Bank Secrecy Act specifically. That's something that should be abolished. The Bank Secrecy Act thrust a dragnet surveillance system onto the financial system in the 1970s to prevent money laundering and crime, and it has not done that at all, objectively. People who want to launder money or commit crimes are still doing that, and yet the everyday common man is put in significant amount of risk because of all the data they need to give up because of the Bank Secrecy Act. We shouldn't be talking about how to work within the Bank Secrecy Act. We should be, as an industry, trying to figure out how we can abolish the Bank Secrecy Act.
Yeah, and I think you're onto something here, because look what we've already done. Apparently there is no money laundering in the world because they don't actually prosecute or catch people with the existing laws that they have. It gets even worse. It looks like we sacrificed Hong Kong as Western worlds to this exact law because the excuse for deportation was from FATF. When FATF took control, it was their turn in the shared presidency of it. Gave Carrie Lam, the Hong Kong governor, her talking points to say, this is why we need extradition to mainland China, because of the potential money laundering liability. Now, I want to ask Preston about this, just because what I saw with that word thinking, not questioning whether laws can change, is, let's say, missing the real point here, that this is a change that goes beyond the words that we put in our brain. It's a change that almost comes from the show that you hosted the night, Thank God for Bitcoin. And what I saw there was someone who just didn't acknowledge that the force behind this goes beyond the plans of all this, legal stuff. And the real piece that I wanted to ask you about was, federalism. He kept going on to the U.S. Constitution. U.S. exists within states. It exists within other pieces. And, tell me if you saw a part there where American federalism can come and play a role.
I just look at it, you can get caught up in all this fancy jargon and terminology, but at the root cause of it, from a first principles thinking kind of way, you can implement as much policy as you want. You can put all these different restrictions on it, but you're just doing it to yourself. It's the equivalent of me living in a neighborhood and saying, well, we're only allowed to park one car in the driveway, right? And all of you are going to obey that same policy. And everyone's just looking at you like, no, dude, that's you who's coming up with that policy. I'm going to do whatever the hell I want, right? And so you're going to see that game theory play out on a global scale, that you can become as constrictive, you can read into whatever legal jargon you want, but at the end of the day, you're just going to be doing that to yourself. And you're going to see other countries that are going to get out of the way, and you're going to see the Bitcoin flow straight into those jurisdictions, right? So we can get as fancy as we want, but I think at a first principles level, it's get out of the way, watch the Bitcoin flow into that nation state, and it's going to be extremely beneficial for those citizens.
So it's a think for yourself situation.
Absolutely.
Great.
Yeah.
You heard it here. Think for yourself. We'll be right back with an announcement from BitPay. Thanks. See you later.